Beyond the veil of the everyday, across the vast and ancient landscapes of the Indian subcontinent, lie places steeped in sorrow and fear. They are scars on the map, where history refuses to die and the dead refuse to rest. Tonight, we peel back the shadows and count down the 10 most haunted places in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. We begin with the unsettling and journey into the heart of absolute terror. The stories you are about to hear are not for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is advised. 10. Mohatta Palace, Karachi, Pakistan. In the bustling heart of Karachi stands the Mohatta Palace, a magnificent structure of pink, Jodhpur stone and elegant domes. Built as a lavish summer home, its beauty now conceals a deep-seated chill. After the partition, it became a government office, but workers would not stay past dusk. They spoke of a presence in the grand halls, of objects moving on their own, of phantom parties where the clinking of glasses and faint music would echo from empty rooms. Guards report feeling slapped by an unseen force and hearing disembodied whispers that seem to ride the sea breeze through the palace's corridors. The very air is said to grow heavy and cold, a sign that the spirits of its original British-era owners are watching. One evening, a tour guide was locking up the museum for the night. As he walked through the main gallery, he noticed one of the large portraits, which had been straight all day, was now hanging crookedly. Annoyed, he straightened it and continued his rounds. When he passed back through the gallery moments later, the same portrait was tilted again, more severely this time. A cold dread washed over him as he straightened it once more, only to hear a faint mocking giggle from the far end of the darkened hall. He fled the palace and refused to ever lock up alone again. 9. The Writers' Building, Kolkata, India. By day, the Writers' Building in Kolkata is a seat of power, the secretariat of the West Bengal state government. But when the sun sets and the civil servants depart, the colossal building transforms. Its endless, dimly lit corridors are said to belong to the spirits of the past. Custodians and guards whisper stories of the agonizing screams of a man echoing through the halls. Faint whispers in unoccupied offices, and the sudden, frantic sound of a typewriter clattering away in a locked room. Many refuse to work the night shift, overcome by a suffocating feeling of being watched by countless unseen eyes. The most famous spirit is that of Captain Simpson of the British East India Company, who was murdered by revolutionaries in this very building. The most chilling encounter involved a young guard on his first night shift. As he patrolled the 5th floor, he heard what sounded like a man gasping for air in the main rotunda. Rushing to the sound, he found the vast, empty space silent. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream erupted right behind him, so loud and full of pain that it threw him to the floor. Scrambling away, he looked back to see nothing but shadows. Yet the echo of that final, desperate cry haunted him for the rest of his life. 8. Lalbagh Fort, Dhaka, Bangladesh. In the heart of old Dhaka lies the Lalbagh Fort, an incomplete 17th century Mughal fortress that holds a story of profound tragedy. It is said to be haunted by the sorrowful spirit of Pari Bibi, the daughter of the governor, whose untimely death halted the fort's construction forever. Her tomb lies at the center of the complex, a place of profound sadness. Visitors and guards have reported seeing a faint, ethereal apparition of a woman in royal attire, gliding through the fort's mosque and audience hall before vanishing into the tomb. The sounds of a woman weeping softly are often heard at night, a timeless echo of a father's grief. During a restoration project in the late 20th century, a team of laborers was working near Pari Bibi's tomb after dark. As they worked, the temperature suddenly plummeted, and their lanterns began to flicker wildly. From the entrance of the dark tomb, they saw the glowing, translucent figure of a woman emerge. She wasn't threatening, but her face was a mask of indescribable sorrow. She raised a hand, as if to warn them away, before dissolving into mist. The entire crew, terrified, dropped their tools and fled, refusing to ever work on the site after sunset again. 7. Shaniwar Wada Fort, Pune, India. The majestic Shaniwar Wada Fort in Pune was the seat of the Peshwa rulers, a place of power and political intrigue. But its grand walls hide a brutal secret. It is haunted by the ghost of Narayanrao, a young prince who was savagely assassinated within the fort at the age of 13. His spirit, it is said, has never left. On full moon nights, the fort becomes a stage for its final moments. The air grows thick with dread, and the sounds of frantic running footsteps echo on the stone ramparts, followed by the terrifying, boyish scream, Kaka, Malavachua, which translates to uncle. Save me. The most terrifying accounts come from paranormal investigators who attempted to stay the night. They documented not just the phantom screams, but a dramatic and inexplicable drop in temperature that coincided with the event. During one investigation, as the chilling cries began, their audio equipment recorded a clear electronic voice, phenomenon a second, deeper voice whispering he must die in the local Marathi language, believed to be the voice of his murderous uncle. The sound of the boy's pleas for his life, followed by the sinister whisper of his betrayer, is an auditory nightmare no one who hears it can forget. 6. Karsaz Road, Karachi, Pakistan. The Carsas Road in Karachi is a major thoroughfare, but late at night it becomes a hunting ground for a terrifying phantom. Locals speak of the Karsaz bride, the spirit of a woman in a red bridal dress who appears in the middle of the road, her face horribly disfigured. Drivers who see her are overcome with fear, often swerving violently to avoid her. She is said to stalk lone drivers, sometimes appearing in their rearview mirror, sitting silently in the back seat, only to vanish when they look again. Her presence is a harbinger of tragedy, with numerous unexplained accidents on this stretch of road attributed to her horrifying appearance. A young man was driving home alone late one night when his car suddenly stalled on Carsas Road. As he tried to restart the engine, he felt a cold draft and saw her in his rearview mirror, the bride, sitting in his back seat, her head bowed. Paralyzed with fear, he watched as she slowly lifted her head. Her face was a ruin of burned flesh, and her eyes were hollow, black pits. She opened her mouth and let out a silent, agonizing scream. He woke up the next morning in his car on the side of the road, the engine running perfectly, with deep, scratch-like gouges on the inside of his windshield. 5. Dow Hill, Kurseong, West Bengal, India. Nestled in the misty hills of West Bengal, the town of Kurseong is plagued by a darkness that centers on Dow Hill. The Victoria Boys High School and the surrounding woods are infamous for their oppressive atmosphere of death and despair. A palpable sense of dread hangs in the air, and locals speak of hearing footsteps echoing in the school's halls long after it has closed for holidays. But the true terror lurks in the forest that separates the school from the Dow Hill Girls' School, a place known as the Death Road. The most horrifying entity of Dow Hill is the headless boy. Multiple woodcutters and locals have reported seeing a young boy walking down the death road before nonchalantly turning towards him, revealing the grisly stump where his head should be. The apparition doesn't chase or scream. It simply walks into the woods and disappears, leaving witnesses mentally shattered. One woodcutter, after such a sighting, reportedly lost his mind, driven mad by the image, and spent the rest of his short life babbling about the boy with no head and eyes of fire that he saw in the tree line. 4. Dumas Beach, Gujarat, India. Dumas Beach in Gujarat is beautiful by day, but its sands hold a sinister secret. For centuries, it was used as a Hindu burial ground, and the ashes of the dead are mixed with its black sand. Locals believe that when the tide goes out and the sun goes down, the tortured souls and restless spirits of the unburied rise. People who walk the beach after dark report hearing disembodied whispers carried on the wind, telling them to go back. Dogs are known to bark and whine at seemingly empty patches of the beach, refusing to go further. The most chilling part, the stories of people who went for a nighttime walk on Dumas Beach and were simply never seen again. A group of 4 college students, dismissing the local legends, decided to spend a night on the beach. They built a bonfire and shared stories until late into the night. Around 2 a.m., one of them got up to walk closer to the water's edge. His friends, lost in conversation, didn't notice his absence for nearly 30 minutes. When they called his name, only the sound of the waves answered. They searched the entire beach with flashlights, but found nothing, not even a single footprint in the sand, leading away from their camp. The authorities were called, but the young man was never found. His disappearance remains a mystery, another soul claimed by the whispering sands of Dumas Beach. 3. Kuldhara Village, Rajasthan, India. Imagine an entire village, home to over 1,500 people, vanishing in a single night. This is the story of Kuldhara. For centuries, it was a prosperous village, but its residents, the Paliwell Brahmins, fled in the 1800s to escape the tyranny of a cruel minister. Before they left, they laid a powerful curse upon the village, that no one would ever be able to settle here again. To this day, Kuldhara remains desolate, a ghost town of crumbling mud houses. Visitors speak of an oppressive, sorrowful silence that is suddenly broken by the sounds of children playing or women talking, coming from the empty homes. Shadowy figures are seen flitting through the ruins, and many who have tried to stay the night have been driven out by a terrifying, unseen force. A team of paranormal investigators from Delhi decided to spend the night to test the legend. They set up cameras and audio recorders throughout the village. In the dead of night, they were startled by what sounded like a large stone being thrown at the roof of the house they were in. When they went outside, they saw nothing. Later, as they reviewed their footage, they saw small, shadowy figures the size of children darting in and out of the camera's view. Suddenly, one of the investigators screamed. He claimed a child's handprint had appeared out of nowhere on his dusty car window. Before something unseen forcefully pushed him to the ground, they packed their gear and fled, convinced the curse was real and that the spirits of the Brahmins guard their abandoned home with a vengeance. 2. Agrasen, Baoli, Delhi, India. In the heart of modern Delhi lies an ancient stepwell of impossible geometry, Agrasen Baoli. Descending its 108 steps feels like stepping into another world, where the sounds of the city fade away and are replaced by an unnatural silence. Legend says the deep, dark well at the bottom was once filled with black, mystical water. This water was said to hypnotize people, luring them to their deaths. It would call to the sad and the broken-hearted, promising them peace in its depths. Though the well is dry now, the malevolent presence remains. Visitors report feeling an invisible entity following them down the steps, its presence growing heavier and more oppressive the deeper they go, instilling an inexplicable and overwhelming sense of despair and a suicidal urge to jump. The most disturbing story is not of a single attack, but a pattern. For years, there have been numerous, officially undocumented cases of people leaping from the top steps. One well-documented account from a survivor tells of a young woman who went to the Baoli seeking quiet. As she descended, she heard a voice, soft as water, whispering her name from the bottom of the well. She felt an irresistible pull, a profound certainty that all her pain would end if she just took one final step. She was on the edge, ready to jump, when another tourist grabbed her arm, breaking the spell. She had no memory of how she got to the edge, only the memory of the sweet, promising voice that came from the darkness below. 1. Bhangarh Fort, Rajasthan, India. There is a reason the Archaeological Survey of India has placed a sign at its entrance, legally prohibiting anyone from entering the ruins of Bhangarh Fort after sunset and before sunrise. This is not a suggestion. It is a federal law born of sheer terror. Cursed by a powerful sorcerer, the fort is considered the most haunted place in all of India. Place of such profound dread that even the government acknowledges its danger. The air within the fort is thick with sorrow, fear, and aggression. Visitors in the daytime report being followed by shadows, hearing screams from the empty palace, and being overcome by sudden, intense anxiety. The locals tell stories of anyone who has dared to stay the night never being seen again. The most infamous and terrifying attack happened to two young men who, filled with bravado, decided to ignore the warnings and stay the night. They hid inside the ruins as the sun went down. What happened next is pieced together from the account of their terrified third friend who waited for them outside the gates. Just after midnight, a scream of pure, undiluted terror echoed from the fort, a sound so inhuman it chilled him to the bone. He saw lights flickering frantically inside the ruins, heard the sounds of a violent struggle, and then a final, gurgling cry. He ran for his life. The next morning, a search party was sent in. They never found the two boys. Not a body, not a shred of clothing, not a drop of blood. They had been utterly and completely erased from existence by whatever evil awakens in Bhangarh Fort when darkness falls. From the sorrowful whispers on a darkened beach to the violent silence of a cursed fort, the subcontinent guards its secrets with a chilling embrace. These are more than just stories. They are warnings, echoes of tragedy, etched into the very stone and sand of these haunted grounds. They remind us that some places are not meant for the living, and that the past is never truly dead.